Everyone's good.
All right. Well, hey, welcome to We Are Libertarians. I don't know. We'll just call this a bonus show. This is real loose. We're doing this loose. You know,
Loosey-goosey.
Here's the thing. So the big show is... How do I put this without sounding like an asshole?
Uh-oh. Here it comes.
Well, it's the flagship, and it is one thing I wanted to bring up on the big show is that the network had a really great coup this week
With Justin Amash, I should have mentioned that. Yeah.
And I was going to say something, and then we kind of got off on tangents, but the big show is really the flagship that people are going to judge the whole network on. So we need to make sure that show is as good but funny as possible.
Well, and with the new attention from Ms. Pat's show and just the amount of people that I've added personally on my socials, it's kind of made me, and doing that show has been really good for me because I'm sitting across from professional comedians and I'm the professional broadcaster in the room, but at the same time, like, I'm always leading a show. I'm not second banana, and being a supporting character is a lot different than leading a show. And so sometimes I step on Miss Pat and I get in her way because I'm used to doing that.
And I try not to do that when I'm trying to talk, but I'm like, when do I let you just keep going?
Which is usually I just but the thing when you're second banana, and that's why as the principal, as the lead on this show, I try to like look at their faces, read their, I can see, Reinhold's leaning back, he's not got anything to say, and then he purses his mouth a little bit and he wants to talk. So you got to make sure that you're conducting the trains basically. And so it's been great for me to kind of be a part of a show where I'm a second banana for the first time ever in my career because I've learned a lot. But doing the show, it's 20 minutes, 30 minutes long. And so the pacing of it's really quick. And it's going to bring this network a lot of attention, and mainly the flagship show. It's hard to get people to listen to We Are Libertarians because it's so long, right? Which I don't give a fuck. Like, I think we do the kind of show that I think I enjoy listening to, I would enjoy listening to, that I want to talk about. It's the flow of a natural conversation. But I do think that I probably should do something to shorten it up a little bit and then put whatever's extra like this. Like with some of these longer shows, like, I don't know, you tell me, is it better to shorten to an hour and 15, put the rest, kind of the detail stuff in the behind the paywall stuff. So that helps our patrons. So they actually, get more for their money. Or just continue to do the complete. Like, I love that when I share that episode for the separation at the border, like, all the information's there in that 3-hour show. And people have listened to the whole show. Like, I'm under no illusion that everybody listens to every minute of the show, but so what do you guys think?
I always like the length of it because there's times that I am like driving and it's just good to have something that doesn't stop after 30 minutes. And I'm trying to find something else to listen to, right?
Right, yeah.
And you get more detail this way. You get more in depth in conversation. There are other podcasts I listen to that are just as long. There are some that are 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It really depends. Like, I listen to, I don't know, we want to talk about other podcasts, but
say whatever you want.
Dana Gould Hour. I mean, he does about an hour and a half, and he usually interviews two different people and intermixes the interviews between each other. Yeah. So you're not spending the whole time in like a 30, 40-minute interview. You're spending like 10 minutes, and then you go 10 minutes to the other, and you go 10 back to the 10, and then he throws in some comedy bits in the middle and has some things he does. Yeah. So there's a lot going on in that, but it's still a long time. No agenda is how long? An hour and a half, 2 hours, sometimes 3.
Well, and I've tried to do more structure with it over time, and like, I just can't stick to it because I'm doing so much research for this kind of show. I mean, I literally, you can see the paper. I mean, it's half a ream of paper literally that I've printed off for this show and the next 2 shows that I'm reading through. I mean, we do a lot of research for this stuff, and so like, once I get here, I'm like so ready to go and just keep the conversation flowing. Like, I break up the big file. Like, we keep the conversation flowing, and then I add little markers, and then I add in like some commercials and stuff. But I don't like trying to do those stop sets like we used to. The other thing that I think I'm going to do is take the daily and put that into its own feed. And so it's just a clean, this is the show, and move all the dailies over. And the reason being is that I think as as the pat down, if it stays like in the top 50 and it grows bigger and bigger, like we're talking already the 30,000 downloads an episode in 2 months. Like, that's going to bring more people to the show. And so I don't want to confuse. They come here because they know me from that cultural thing. And then they're like, well, what's this debate with these libertarians? Which is no disrespect to Hody. I just think that,
Hody.
I have just learned that people want things separated. I eat one thing at a time and I don't let my food touch. And that's how podcast listeners are. They're like, I come here for Chris Spangle and then I get other stuff. But it's like, I don't personally care. Like, I prefer it the way that we've been doing.
I think there's other people who would like all their food mixed together. They like they like a mash, a goulash of some sort. So I think providing both is the best way to go.
Which is what we do with the big feed on wearelibertarians.com. There's a big network feed. But like, I like it because I think we have a complete, when you go and search for a topic, you have all 100 of these great daily episodes that are just, really good content and really like it's. So I'm really torn about like, do I change anything? Do I make these kind of tweaks? Where do I go?
I used to like it all in one. I used to like that whole silo approach, right? Up until one of my favorite podcasts that I started listening to, he started to do other shows.
Right.
I have no interest in music. I have no interest in your Star Wars show. I'm here for your tech. I want you to hear your tech show.
Which is why I don't mind the dailies being in the same feed, because it's libertarian policy and politics.
Yeah. It
may not be this show. But it is Hody, Dennis, Sarah talking about something that would interest people. So I don't know.
Well, it really depends on what kind of feedback do you think you've been getting, or could we get from people? Like, what do they? Why do they listen?
Yeah.
What are you looking for? Are you looking for that long discussion? Do you want a little bit more joking around? Do you want a little more focus on detail? I mean, what is it that people want out of the show? Because we're trying to guess, and I just think that the better to ask. Yeah,
and that's exactly right. And so I am kind of trying to figure out and I care more about what the patrons think, because you guys are investing in this.
Yep.
That's the way that I look at it. Like, I'm going to be honest. I know that I have been less than consistent over this year. But it's because I've been working on some projects that, like, I will always do this show, and I will tell you that I will always do this in some form. Be it We Are Libertarians, this is probably what I will do for the rest of my life. That's what I will hope to do for the rest of my life, is We Are Libertarians and the way that we do it. But in a daily basis, or on a national radio show type format, or something along those lines. But I will say that there are times where I get bored, and I have loved doing the pat down. I have loved doing this podcast called Leaders and Legends, where I'm engineering essentially like interviews with the establishment. I think it's fascinating. It's been great for me. I really am enjoying it. And work's been really busy, and so I've just had some personal stuff where it's like, I can't do 2 shows a week. I can't do the type of show, the level that I feel a responsibility that I'm going to sit down here. I want something unique that you've not heard, that is going to make you think, and that is going to give you information that you probably aren't hearing from somebody else. And if I don't think I can provide that, I'm just not going to do a show, because Lord knows we have enough content for you to catch up on. And so 2 weeks ago, I was just tired. I didn't have anything I needed to say to you guys, so I just didn't do a show. Last week I was in LA, and I came back after these 2 weeks in the prep group, basically our research team, and I said, I have 5 ideas. Give me research on these 5 ideas. So because I need that time to kind of recharge a little bit and re-engage with the world and think about things in a different way. But I really feel like you're investing in this. I do this on a consistent basis because you guys pay for the content. Right. And I will tell you that there are times when I'm just like, if we didn't have patrons, if I didn't feel that responsibility to patrons, honestly, there'd be maybe one show a month at certain points, because I would be off. And so I really love having the patrons, because it keeps me engaged in this and accountable to this. And this is the love, not the love of my life, but the passion project that I have, that I truly enjoy doing. and I'm glad that I have that. I have someone to be accountable to.
And the Patreons are the ones willing to, go to the extra step and help out and provide some funds. I mean, it's not just like they're passively listening and then moving on. They've heard something. There's something about the show that they are passionate about as well, and they're willing to help us out. So I want to make sure we get more people like that involved. What is it that they fell in love with the show or wanted to get out of the show that they're willing to do that with and take that and make sure that stays the core.
Yeah, and I will just be very honest with you. Like, I probably put $20,000 to $30,000, probably closer to $30,000 into We Are Libertarians the first 5 years of its existence. I made no money. And this is when I was making no money. This is when I was making like less than, or if maybe $30,000 a year, and was trying to make ends meet. And I mean, I put everything into We Are Libertarians to grow into what it is now. And a lot of people helped along the way, like Christy Avery, Phyllis Klosinski, Jason Doolittle, Craig DaCosta. Just the list goes on and on. Todd Singer, like a lot of the people who are patrons have just really invested a lot in my career, and I can't thank them enough. And it's really kind of amazing to like sit in the green room of Joe Rogan, and I had a shot at going on, which I'll explain. We'll get to the Rogan stuff here in a moment, but it. What was I talking about before I started really thanking people? Help me.
Well, that you put in 30,000.
Yes, yeah. And so the Patreon, hundreds of dollars a month goes towards the expenses of this,
right?
And then a lot of that goes back to just paying myself back. I'm almost even, and it's just changed my world financially, and to the point that when I get an opportunity to go to LA to see Rogan and fly out there, I can say yes. Because 6 months ago, 2 years ago, I would have had to say no. I wouldn't have had a year ago the financial means to go to LA like I did and spend more than I really planned on spending. I mean, I probably spent
it's always that way.
I thought, if I save like $300-400, I'll be fine. I was like, I need $800. So now I'm looking at it going, well, all right, that was tight. Yep. And that's with somebody helping me out on the cost. Work was helping me out with the cost because I went and did some work stuff. But
Buffalo Wild Wings have happy hour, and you get a bunch of wings.
Yeah, but if I didn't have the Patreon chunk coming in at the beginning of the month, I would not have said yes to doing this experience. That fundamentally, I can tell you that there's watershed moments in building this, and I think anybody who's building a business can kind of tell you, like, I talked to this guy named Jack Carr who started iQuest, now Lightbound, an ISP here in Indianapolis, and he basically said, like, I look back along the way, and it's like, I didn't realize it at the time, but like, this moment laid this brick, and then this moment laid this brick, and then it laid this brick, and then eventually you look back after 20 years and you see a wall, and you go, how did that wall get there? And that's sort of how this has been. Like, I look back and I see Phyllis Klosinski sending me $250 in 2014, and going, no, it was 2014 or 15 maybe, and getting just this unbelievably sweet note from Phyllis, and basically saying, you need to believe in yourself. You have talent. I'm going to tear up talking about it because it's still so meaningful to me. Here's $250. Put it towards We Are Libertarians. And like, I desperately needed something. I forget what it was, because we didn't have people like we have now. Like, it was just me, like, barely paying the hosting. Like, we're talking, we were a $50 a month operation, and I was scraping by. And you look at this Rogan opportunity, and this is one of those moments where I will look back and I will go, this past week was one of those moments where a lot of things changed for me for the better. I don't know. First, it's just like, and by extension, the podcast, like, a lot of people are going to start paying attention to this because of my association with Miss Pat, which I give her so much credit. There's so many great mentors that I've had and people that have helped bring me along the way. Like, you know, like Tom, my boss Tom at Bob and Tom, you know, my boss John, my mom, you know, these people who have kind of like Phyllis, these people who have kind of helped you along. Miss Pat said, hey, you're really good at this. Why don't you help me do this? Like, I'd love to have you do it, and just stay loyal. And, you know, I really appreciate the opportunity to like get to be on that podcast because of the huge cultural significance I think it's going to have. Like, Miss Pat is going to be Kevin Hart level famous, and to be associated with this podcast is just personally very big for me. And I knew that it kind of would be. So she basically says like, hey, do you want to go meet Joe Rogan? Now, this is a very sweet thing because Miss Pat knows I want to meet Joe Rogan. She knows that I would like to meet Joe Rogan. Mm-hmm. And she knows that, frankly, a picture with Joe Rogan will probably do me... that'll be her payment for the month. You know, that's kind of like, it's just a very nice thing to say, hey, I'm going to do this thing. Would you like to come with me? And I said, let me move some things around. Absolutely. And so I did, and she didn't have to take me. She didn't have to invite me. And she, you know, she kind of said, well, I'd like to see if I can get you on. But I can't make it. I'm like, I have no expectations of going on, like, whatsoever. Like, if you want me on there, I will rise to the occasion, but I have no expectations that that's going to happen. And she was going to ask, but he was late. So he was like 20 minutes late or so. Mm-hmm. And so he kind of rushed in, and they rushed into the studio, and there wasn't the opportunity. And I was a little like, oh. But she just went in there, and I'm glad I wasn't in there because she just did so well. Mm-hmm. Like, she just killed it. And man, it has been insane. Like, she's added thousands of people to her social media. She's added hundreds to me and Dion's. We had like what's doubled, like, it's tripled the amount of downloads in a week. Oof. To the podcast. It's like a significant amount of downloads to the podcast. Like, the amount of comments on everything. We were just kind of like, we've done like 10 episodes, and she has a platform, she has a following, so we've kind of had some juice. She went on the Breakfast Club, yes, which got like 5,000 new Instagram followers off of that, which that kind of helped boost us a little bit. This is next level. Like, you have no idea what the Joe Rogan effect is like. To witness the Joe Rogan effect from the inside is crazy. Like, the amount of downloads, the amount of inbound messages, the amount of people just commenting. Like, she did so well. She did the kind of episode that if people watch it, they will share it, and they will go, man, that was one of the best ever.
Well, it's like the Tonight Show effect, right?
It is. Yeah. It's so like that. Like, in the 80s, if you went on the Tonight Show, you made it. Yeah. You know? And he's so good to her. He's like, anything you need, Miss Pat. Welcome to the Joe Rogan effect. And he knows the responsibility he has, which, like, if you watch the Bob Lazar about aliens, he's like, I want to do this because I want to get this out there. Like, he's very aware of his power right now. And he uses it for good. Like, he really seems like a very responsible person.
Yeah, because Joe Rogan is the Bob and Tom for podcasters.
Yes, it's the biggest podcast in the world.
Yeah, right. It's where you try to go. So that's awesome that she did, like, you know, she kind of gave you the, like, hey, you want to come?
Yeah,
that's amazing.
It's super sweet, and she's such a nice person.
I just find it funny too that it's just watching how podcasting has grown and changed to see that Rogan is the one who kind of came out on top of all that. I mean, right. Mark Maron, who I thought was going to be the one, he kind of.
I think he kind of got one note, and the thing about Rogan is there's so much variety to it,
that's
and he
part of it.
Yeah, and he's not doing it. It's so he books everything himself, which I couldn't believe, and so you get there. And you walk in, and it looks just like the Instagram pictures. You, like, walk in, and you see the archery to the right and the studio to the left, and, like, these amazing fan art and paintings and everything, pictures all on the wall. And then around, it's like a U shape, and it's just like, it's and he has all of his equipment and gym and all that stuff in there, and it's just really. And then you walk in the room and it's so surreal because you've watched hours of this room, and it looks just like it does, and you're like, wow. I don't know. I guess it's how people feel when they come to the Bob and Tom Studios.
Yeah,
it's probably a little bit different because you don't watch Bob and Tom like
a lot
you do
of people
now.
do. Yeah,
yeah. But now that I'm rolled out a video program for us, but
it used to be on like local TV once.
Yes.
In a while,
yeah.
I just see people in their reaction to Bob and Tom, and I'm not a star fucker. I have worked, like I never really was, but like having been in the media for a long time in politics and racing and all this, like I just never was that person that met anybody and wanted a picture with them or was nervous and like, and except for Tom Griswold. I was really nervous to meet the guy that I work for now because that was my childhood hero and I had wanted to meet him forever.
I was kind of the same way with Dean and
Whit?
No.
Dean Anderson.
I'm having complete.
Dean Clancy.
No.
Dean Metcalf.
Dean Metcalf.
Yeah.
And
Chick.
God,
Yes.
why could I was having an old
Right.
moment, old man moment.
Only the man with the largest Q score in the city of Indianapolis.
I love those two guys, and I remember my wife and I were I think we had been just like married a year. We went to a restaurant downtown. It was a Italian restaurant downtown, and I'm sitting there talking with her, and I look over, and there's Dean and Chick sitting there eating dinner, and I'm just like, but I'm like, I would never go up and just say, hey, can I have a picture up? They're eating dinner, but I could overhear their conversations and talking about Tom this and this, and they were it was just great to listen to, and I won't repeat a lot of it.
And honestly, when you're in that world, like you're in a world where people know who you are, what you're doing. Like they don't know me. I mean, I think it's getting to a point now where I was walking into Meyer a couple months ago and guy like, love your podcast. I heard you on Alan Frank and started listening and you do a great job. I'm just a big fan. So there's little moments like that where I've had that kind of through the years. Like Greg and I had talked at one point. It's like, man, it was weird. He goes, it was weird. I was at like this state fair or some local fair and I was standing in line. This guy like took a creep shot of me because he was too nervous to say hi, and so I don't know. I'm not nervous, and I didn't get a picture with Ron Paul once because I come from the media side. I come from the journalism side. It's unprofessional to do that. And when I worked for the PR staff as a journalist, basically for the Speedway, if you got a picture with a race car driver, because I was interviewing drivers, you got a picture or an autograph, you were fired immediately because it creates an unprofessional environment. So like I'm not the type to ever ask for a picture because I'm just not. And so we're standing there after the podcast and Miss Pat asked, let's get a picture and like wanted me included in the photo, even though I wasn't on the show, which was like so nice of her. And then she goes, I know this white boy want a picture with you, Joe Rogan. Will you take a picture with him? He too afraid to ask. And he goes, oh, sure. And I wasn't going to ask because it's just like, that's just not. And then when I got the picture, I'm like, I can't post this. This just seems so braggadocious. And like, I know the Deer Leader character, but like in reality, I'm David Letterman Midwestern, where I'm just like, like, am I rubbing my nuts in your face? I don't want to be like, look at me. But then I go, you know what? This is a really cool moment, and it is kind of a show-off moment, and it is like just, and people will be like, what? Because I didn't tell anybody I was going to LA for this. Like, I haven't really told anybody until the picture, and then people are like DMing me like, how could you not tell me? Like, because I didn't know if it would not happen, or I didn't want to be like, hey, I'm going to Joe Rogan's office, like
Yep.
But then the picture was just like, people were like, what the fuck? Like, in our circles, that's a big deal. And so Miss Pat would call and she'd be like, hey, they love you, that Joe Rogan. I see your Facebook. They love it.
How many people accused you of photoshopping it?
No, none.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's good.
One Bob and Tom fan photoshopped Christy in the photo.
I saw
that. Funny, so you get there, and I'm
was a B&T fan that did that?
Ronald McDuffin, yeah, he does a lot of photoshops, yeah. I've got a weird career going where I've got like Bob and Tom circles, pat down circles, wall circles, libertarian people like...
And still Frank and...
Diagram.
It's like, so it's hard keeping it all straight at this point. So I'm not going to give a ton of details because it's kind of like that same thing where I was a guest of a guest, so I don't want to put a ton out on blast. But like I'll give you, like I told you, the studio is huge, and so we were just kind of hanging out waiting for Joe, and and so he does everything himself. He books, like I sat there and talked to Jamie for 30 minutes. I was more excited to meet Jamie and kind of see how they do their production than anything else.
Yeah.
And he was just super nice. They have another guy that works for them who's kind of like runs the space and some assistant stuff. And like, he was super nice. He looked just like Seth Rogen, and he was just a really nice guy. And, I mean, they just made you feel really at home and kind of showed us around a little bit and, you know, talked. And Jamie and I started talking, and, you know, he was showing me a lot of the equipment and everything, and we were talking about that. And I go, so how worried are you about the YouTube thing and kind of everything turning towards you guys? And he goes, I mean, it's a concern, but what can we really do about it? You know, and there's really no way to get a hold of anybody there. So like one of the largest YouTube channels in the world, he's like, I can't get a hold of them. I don't know how to talk to YouTube. Like, YouTube is such a mess. Like, Google is the worst company. Like, I've been having an issue where I've been trying to get money. I've been trying to get a tax issue resolved so I can get money out of YouTube. I have tried a dozen different channels to get a hold of somebody to help us, and it's a significant amount of revenue on the YouTube side, and they just don't care. Like, there's nobody to talk to.
Amazon is not that way. Twitch was very easy to get a hold of somebody.
I agree. And Facebook is not that way. Twitter has 300 employees, and they are not that way. It's like Google is just impossible. And try to set up a YouTube account. Try to set up a YouTube page and a brand account. It's just impossible. Like I've
got one that, you know, you have to have so many downloads and everything just before you can get a name that you can give people so that you can actually do branding, and it's such a pain.
So it's on their radar, but they're like, there's not a lot we can do about it, and they were more aware of it than I thought they might be. He was, at least. I don't know about Rogan. He's kind of seems to be more aware, because when he did that Jack Dorsey thing, he didn't seem to really understand like what's at stake for him personally in terms of deplatforming. Mm-hmm. And I think he seems to get it now a little bit more. And
but I think someone like Joe Rogan could probably survive and excel in that situation by creating his own infrastructure to do it, right? So
probably,
and being off of YouTube, because I mean he's that level of power.
I mean, that video has 1 million people. I have no idea what the audio downloads. I'm trying to get Miss Pat to ask because I want to know, because I'm like, what kind of downloads is Joe Rogan getting? But the video on YouTube has like 1 million views. Right. I mean, and that's average for him, you know? So he is big, but there is something to be said. Like, Joe Rogan's a cultural outlet in the way that Howard Stern was 20 years ago, or it really still is, you know? Joe Rogan's power is every bit as big, if not bigger, than maybe NBC News. Because people actually consume the content that Joe Rogan puts out. They just see the headlines that NBC News puts out. And that's why he's dangerous. He's effective. Mm-hmm. And that's that's the problem, is that he will talk to anybody, and he's effective at letting people just kind of unfiltered, like this Bob Lazar alien thing. You know, the guy, I didn't believe in aliens until I sat and watched for an hour and a half this guy talk about working at Area 51. I'm like, holy fuck, they're here. Like, I mean,
I haven't listened to that one yet.
Dude, it's riveting. And I'm going to watch the documentary at some point. So, you know, he's effective, and that's the problem. Like, I spent most of the trip listening to Michael Malice interviews, and man, Michael Malice is next. He's up on the chopping block. Like, they're going to try and get rid of this guy because he's too good. Like, Michael Malice, whether many of you may not think about how you disseminate information and how you craft arguments and what are persuasive arguments that you might use. For instance, I'm thinking a lot about what are arguments that will convince a conservative to let a child have a blanket and a toilet, because it's harder than you think. And so how do you craft an argument that might be persuasive to them?
Christ?
No, not
Damn
usually.
It. That doesn't work. I've tried natural rights.
Natural rights, yeah.
Property rights doesn't work.
Yeah.
Individual rights, like you find out that somebody's like, they don't believe in baking the cake. I'm like, well, your immigration law is just telling you that you can't hire this person. How is that any different? You're allowing the same thing. And
propaganda is a hell of a drug.
You can't get through because they're motivated by fear,
and so what
propaganda.
And so what Malice is great at doing is what Malice has done sneakily. That is create a mainstream way to talk about anarchism in a way that is not offensive to the right or the left. And talks to regular people in a way that's fun and funny. And it's dangerous because he's really good. He's really effective. Rogan is really effective. And so you just can't, if you're the mainstream media, if you are the politicians of the world, it's not a conspiracy. It's just it's governing by groupthink. There's not a cabal of people sitting around going, this Joe Rogan's too effective, we must take him out. It's just a byproduct of a bunch of people who believe the same thing, think the same way, went to the same schools. What was it today? Yesterday they were trying to get rid of. They were trying to take off the YouTube channel. It was like a BuzzFeed writer, one of these clickbait leftists. It was maybe Forbes. I think it was Forbes. This guy wrote an article basically saying, how does Paul Joseph Watson have his YouTube channel? He's associated with Alex Jones.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, well, his account is in good standing. Paul Joseph Watson, I'm not gonna lie to you. I watch almost every Paul Joseph Watson video there is. I think a lot of what he does is very persuasive, and he's not crazy, and he's not pushing conspiracy theories.
Nope.
He's pushing his ideology in a way that is very effective, that makes you go, I see that line of argument. And so it's unfiltered. It's not and so he works with Alex Jones. I know there's some prickly feelings between the two sometimes.
Yeah, they do fight.
And so they're trying to take off Liberty Hangout and Paul Joseph Watson's YouTube channels. The media has kind of circled the wagons around these two, saying, "How dare YouTube still have these hate propagators? They're covertly giving Alex Jones material." I can tell you, I haven't seen Alex Jones's face on any of Paul Joseph Watson's videos in the last 9 months. He's not repurposing any of Alex Jones's banned content, quote unquote. And so that guy's just lying about it. And so it's basically the same thing that if somebody comes along from BuzzFeed and finds something that I said with Greg and James Neese in 2013 that was offensive, which is very possible, which is why I've often thought about taking all of our old content and putting that behind the paywall.
We call that the Mike Pence maneuver.
I have, yes. Mike Pence was in talk radio for like 20 years, and there isn't a single tape left because he called Jeff Smolian over at Emmis and said, get rid of this.
Well,
and
Gavin did the same thing.
Yeah.
He took all his old podcast stuff off the network so you can't see him.
Yep. And it's frankly a smart move. Like, I think about that all the time. Like, what did we say in 2014 when I was going through a divorce and I was not in my right mind? Or 2016 when I was trying to be funny yet offensive and push the envelope? Like, what did I say? And so should I leave that stuff up because that can come? But you know what? At the end of the day, it's out there. And so basically the principle is you take something that I said in 2016 that I may not believe today. I may have grown as a person, shockingly, and then you try to get Brian Nichols banned from YouTube because he's associated with me. It doesn't make any sense. He didn't say anything. Brian Nichols didn't say what I said 2 years ago, let alone, so there's just a lot of stuff that it's just this creep to a point that's really like Joe Rogan interviewed Gavin McInnes 3 years ago. And so therefore that one interview out of 1,300 interviews means he cannot have a channel on this platform. It's bizarre thinking. And I think Michael Malice, Joe Rogan, these people are really in trouble because they're very effective at what they do, providing unfiltered information.
Do you think Joe Rogan has an agenda that he's trying to push, or is he just trying to do interesting interviews?
Well, being his personal friend now, Dennis, I don't. I mean, when he talks policy on his show, he believes in global warming. He believes in paying more taxes. Like he believes he's been sympathetic to the Green New Deal. He believes in socialized medicine. He thinks there should, so he's a fairly liberal person. He is a liberal in the
old liberal sense, maybe.
Not
classic liberal.
Not like the 40s sense, but I mean like the 90s sense, the 80s sense that, listen, we can be friends and have reasonable discussions.
Yep.
I believe in free speech and a liberal worldview, but I think we need to progress to a certain point, and I think government can play a good role in that. So I think he has a point of view. I think basically the sense that I got is that when something comes across Joe Rogan's radar that he finds interesting, or a person that he finds interesting, he has them on to talk about it.
Right, so he's getting his agenda out just by the selection of the people he's booking, as opposed to being overt in it in his conversations with them.
My sense of it is that he doesn't have an agenda in the way that I have an agenda.
Right.
I want to convert you to libertarianism. And I want to use current events and explain to you why things are happening the way that they're happening, so you no longer believe that the government is a net positive in your life. I don't think he has an agenda like that.
His agenda is more about just getting ideas and interesting things out for other people to
it's consider. Satisfying his personal curiosity. Right. I think he's an intelligent man who is very curious about a lot of things, and he's taping his It is like, it's hard to say to somebody, hey, can you come over to my house and smoke some weed for 3 hours and talk to me? I know that you're like Gad Sad, who's this professor at whatever, or I know that you're Elon Musk. Like, can you just come over and hang out for 3 hours? It's a lot easier if you have 1 million YouTube views and you can say to that person, like, I want to have a conversation with you. Let's put it online. Like, I think that's what it is more than anything. I don't think that he has an agenda in the way that I do.
Well, I think that protects him a lot from some of this concern that some other people might have.
Yeah.
True, but just with all this aspect of what Chris was saying is that he wants to know and learn about these things, so having them coming over, and the best way to do it is to schedule podcasts and turning into not work, but more of a just, have these long-form conversations.
I'm the type of person that, like Rupert from Survivor, we get together on the phone during Survivor, and he tells me what he wants me to tweet for him. Now, Rupert is perfectly capable of typing into the Twitter machine whatever he wants. Now, he's dyslexic. So he's nervous about like
making mistakes,
doing
like grammar Nazis,
basically doing it quickly as we're so he likes having that filter. But really, what it's about is that if Rupert and I didn't talk every Wednesday night, it's 2 seasons a year, we didn't have that excuse to talk to each other. Rupert and I wouldn't talk anymore because we have to have a work thing to kind of be engaged with each other, and so. Like, my time is at a premium. I want to be productive with it. Like, going to a restaurant and sitting there and talking, it sounds horrible to me. But if there's a shared project, like we are Libertarians, Harry, come on over to my house every Tuesday night. Let's hang out. Right. If Harry said to me, I want to come over and just hang out for 3 hours every Tuesday night, I'd go, there is not a chance in hell that will ever happen. I'm just not that person. And so I think maybe he's sort of like that too. So there, he's very aware of his power, and he's very aware of what he can do with it. And, everybody's like, when are you going on Rogan? I'm like, I don't think I'm at a point where I'm interesting enough to get Joe Rogan's attention. I think I'm like 75% of the way in my worldview, in my abilities, and how I articulate things. And I think I'm like 75% of the way there. But I'm not to the point where I feel that I feel that I have a different point of view than a lot of people, but I don't think that I have like that. Like, I don't know, like that Mike. Like, I look at Michael Malice or Jonah Goldberg or, these people who just, when they speak, like, Malice makes me laugh. He makes me think. Like, Goldberg, I don't agree with him a lot, but like every time Jonah Goldberg talks, I really like find it interesting. Christopher Hitchens was always that way. Anything Christopher Hitchens ever did, I watched it. So that's my eventual goal, and I just don't think that I deserve to be on Joe Rogan yet. And because I don't feel that I've worked hard, and I've worked hard enough. I just don't think I've done it long enough to get to that point.
Yeah. So the key, what you're saying is I need to develop a personality.
Yes, you have.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Of course, you're only one bathroom break at a national convention to be becoming interesting as you go to the bathroom and get voted into something.
That's true. Yeah, no, I think there's a lot that goes into this. Like if you got to the mic, like if you look at Michael Malice, for instance, if you look at what I do, what we're doing here, you not only have to be informed enough, which means you have to read all the time. You also have to think thoughts about it that are unique and different than what Sean Hannity or Rachel Maddow say.
Right.
And there's a tremendous amount of people on Twitter giving their opinion, and whatever you think was unique and interesting, if you type it into Twitter, somebody said it 2 weeks ago. So how do you then package that in a way that is different, unique, and interesting that will get people to listen to what you do? And so it's very difficult because you have to be an interesting person saying interesting things with facts that are true. And so those three converging streams of skills take a long time to develop and gel. And
it's not always enough either. Sometimes you need something like, I was trying to figure out why people were so interested in PewDiePie, and I'm like, he's obnoxious and annoying, but it's what people he sticks out. They want something different. They want to have something that gravitates to that. So
no, I think about it all the time. I think like I look at a guy like Mance Raider, and this is not a knock on Mance, but like I look at the heat that Mance has, and I go, man, I've been doing this longer. I feel I'm better than he is. I don't get why he has the heat and we don't. You know what I mean? Like I had dinner with Mark Claire, Jason Stapleton, and Brian McWilliams the night before Rogan. I was in LA, and so I got dinner with them. I never met Jason. I think Jason is a really smart, really interesting guy. I would love to. I have a ton of respect for Jason because I know how hard it is to do what he's done, and he's built something 3 times. He's done a wall 3 times, and I'm getting to the point where I can help like get a Pat Down podcast, a Miss Pat, to the point where she's at. You know, I'm getting to the point where I'm like got that technical skill set and the marketing skill set and the production value set and the producing of the show. Like, you know, I look at what Jason has been able to accomplish, and I'm frankly a little jealous. You know, I go, I feel that I have a lot of interesting things to say, maybe a little more interesting than Jason sometimes. Why does he have this? Why does he? I think you compare yourself all the time, and I'm sure Jason does that. I'm sure Mark Claire and Roger Paxton, everybody looks at what the other group, like I look at what Johnny does with his production value of his podcast, and I go, I'm fucking pissed. Like, why don't I have the same kind of technical production? Like Johnny's podcasts, as a person who edits podcasts for a living, are fucking unbelievably top tier, 10 out of 10. Nobody's better than him. Like flawless. And you just go, all right, I do this all day, every day, and I don't have that talent. Fuck. You know, like so I think that's the missing ingredient. You have to have the technical skill, the knowledge, and the, just the hard work, but you have to have the confidence and the vulnerability. You've got to have like that emotional part of it too, where you're going to kind of go, I just got to get over the fact that some people are going to be better at some things than me, or some people are going to be like, I look at Tommy Lauren and I go, I don't know why I know why she's popular, but like you look at some people and you just go, I don't get it. You know, I don't get, like, I look at Ben Shapiro, I get his success. Like, he's an intelligent man who puts on a really good presentation. He's short, he's concise. You learn something every time you listen to his show. It is incredibly hard doing what he does, and I have a lot of respect for his talent. So I don't know. I think it is. It's just I don't feel I belong on Joe Rogan at this point yet. I will at some point, but not right now. Rogan himself is just a super nice guy. He was a little shy. Like, he was just kind of like, he will do anything for his friends. He's super loyal. You can just tell he's just a top-notch human being.
Yeah.
Like, you just get that sense. Like, when somebody's, I can tell when somebody's a scumbag. Like, Megan, I know for a fact Meghan McCain is a diva. Meghan McCain's a diva just from the sense that you get from her. I've only seen one person who has completely fooled the public about their personality, and it's Helio Castroneves. He's kind of a jerk, but everybody thinks he's just like super fun and like, I mean, that is probably part of his personality, but like when the lights go out, he puts that helmet on. He's not like, he's not a bad guy. He's just not friendly. But you'd think, like, you'd look at Helio Castroneves, the race car driver, and go, oh, he must be so friendly. He was on Dancing with the Stars. He's actually not very friendly. He's actually kind of a jerk.
Allegedly.
Right. No, he's a jerk. He's no Danica. Danica's probably, but like you look at Danica, Danica Patrick is an absolute bitch. And she is.
Allegedly.
I have the tapes to prove it.
Allegedly.
I have the tapes to prove how mean she is.
Allegedly.
And she has not changed a bit
Allegedly.
In the 15 years that I've been around her.
Allegedly.
No. I'm saying it. This is to our Patreon people. They're not going to tell anybody. This is all between us. Rogan himself, you just can tell is a good guy, and in person, in the brief few moments I talked to him, he was just nice.
Yeah, the Sober October episodes really shows how he's really tight with his friend group.
Yeah.
Like these are my friends, these are my group. I really, because it all started about caring about Bert,
right?
And like they even felt bad, like, hey, we're saying is the microphones are going, but we care about you,
right?
And it was neat to watch the group go with it and spiral, and it was. It's that camaraderie that most guys don't have with their group. And that's, awesome. That's always makes me want that's always try to inspire the guys to hey, keep your friend group together, keep it moving because, when it comes down to it, that group is probably going to, that's your group to get you through thick and thin or hopefully pocket heal you, but heal you better than Paul Copeland because he sucks.
Well, he picks the wrong healer.
Yeah, for the way he uses, or don't play tank like Reinhold. Reinhold sucks. I suck at damage. I'm not gonna think I'm the best. I'm terrible at doing damage.
I'm a victor and proud of it.
His upload speed and his download speed are 256 megabytes,
which is phenomenal.
I did that for Harry.
That's phenomenal. Did you get that pineapple?
I did not. I did not place the pineapple. No, I'm not a thief.
I should have sent you with some just tools. It's like, sorry, my IT guy told me to put this here. Point it at your phone.
I was super nervous about making a good impression. Like, I was not nervous to meet him, and he was just as unassuming as you think he is. He's just puts you at ease, and the whole room is not bright. It's actually pretty dark. And Jamie said, the room's really dark because we want people just to feel comfortable. Because people feel the magnitude of this, and they get in the room and they start panicking, and so they purposely design it so it's just like a smooth conversation. If you watch the alien guy, he's got a migraine because he's so scared, which he was scared for other reasons because the federal government's trying to destroy his life. Right. No, they have put a lot of thought into it, and they're very good at it. And they have worked on this craft, and they are where they're at for a reason. I can tell you, booking that show is a full-time job. Just that. I mean, the show I work for, the Bob and Tom Show, we have a full-time guest booker. And her job is, she doesn't even have to arrange flights and stuff like that usually. She will sometimes. But Rogan does it all. And I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he does what he does. He must really get good energy from that sauna because what he's doing is superhuman.
He also does take time off and does his own thing and recharges like you are doing, which is probably a good thing to take away from that.
Maybe we should take you archery, go get your bow hunting, take you out to New Hampshire, take you out, go bow hunting. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Make you a little bit more interesting.
It's not possible. This is as interesting as I get, sadly, which is what bums me out. I sit and think about how uninteresting I am, and I go,
I just want to see you try to go on Instagram Live. I was sitting in some deer blind somewhere, woo, I'm sitting there in this deer blind. Put that light down, quiet.
Yeah. So did I answer, is there any other questions that you I don't know.
All right, I have to ask this question.
Okay.
What's the size of the board? Come on.
Huge. Oh, man. Big board. 2 boards.
Oh.
They use TriCaster. He's got a big Behringer digital board. I don't know if it was Behringer.
No, it was Behringer.
It was Behringer or it was...
Let it be known. Behringer.
Yeah. Are they making Are they making the edits with the TriCaster live, or are they doing
he's
that
live
after?
switching it.
Ooh,
Yeah, he's live switching it, and then they just bought new cameras. They bought like these nice Sony cameras.
Yeah, not that stupid. They didn't waste money buying Reds.
No, he had legit equipment. Here's the coolest thing.
No, I'm saying legit equipment. They didn't waste money buying the Reds.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Jamie knows what he's doing. Jamie told me, and I don't know if this is public knowledge, so maybe just keep it here if you could, because I don't want to, I was a guest of a guest, and I don't want to. That's why I'm not doing this on the main show, because like I know people would be interested in this, and I could like my experience at the Joe Rogan podcast, and it'd probably get 20,000 downloads, and it'd personally benefit me, but then it'd get back to Rogan, and Miss Pat would be pissed, and I just don't want. Maybe nobody would care.
That's not the way you want to get famous,
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't. So I think it's a fun story to tell. So I'm telling you guys to just kind of keep it to yourself. But Jamie said that he flew out to L.A. with a one-way ticket. He gets off the plane. He drives to the Ice House to Joe's comedy show. He stands in line to meet Joe. He purposely is the last one so he can have a conversation with him. And he says, I went to Full Sail. I want to, which is like a video, audio. He's an audio engineer.
It's in Atlanta, I think.
I'm an audio. I think it's Florida.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's in Florida.
He goes, I'm an audio engineer. Do you have a job for me? And Rogan hires him on the spot. He flies to L.A. on a one-way ticket with a mission of getting a job with Joe Rogan, pitches him, and gets the job. And years later, now look at him. So pretty cool. Like, and that's I have learned, like, I had a similar thing with Tom where it's like, why is your digital so bad? Like, why does your website look so bad? And the art guy goes, you got to tell Tom. I'm like, I am not telling Tom that. And so I go and sit down across from Tom and tell him all the ways that his website sucks and his social sucks, and like, and I go, and I have a plan to fix it. And like, I'm not a very aggressive person, but I was like, I've got the plan to fix it. You've got a problem, and I'm here to do it for you. And I knew that, like, I'm going to get one shot to talk to Tom Griswold, and I want a job with him. So I better be a little aggressive and move myself out of my comfort zone, and I got it. Nothing nearly as ballsy as Jamie. But, like, if you're ever in a situation where you're like, I want that job, I want to do this, you just got to jump. So what if Rogan had said no? Just buy another ticket back home. Like, you're going to live. But what if Rogan says yes, and then you're Jamie from the Joe Rogan Experience? You know what I mean? So
maybe he says no. There's other things you could do while you're there and think about doing or trying to do stuff if that's what your goal was.
Yeah.
Like, I was sitting in my office, and I get a call from PJ. And PJ goes, Tom wants to talk to you. Can you come right now? Now, I'm at my full-time job, sitting at the Englehart Group. I'm the marketing manager for the Advocates for Self-Government, the quiz people, the marketing director. And I'm like, I already went to lunch. It's 1 o'clock. I can't say I'm taking a second lunch. I can't lie my way out of this. Like, I need to just tell the truth. Hey, boss. I'm sitting there going, should I just say no? Like, I'm super uncomfortable saying to my bosses, like, this guy that I want to work for, like, I should have, like, everything in me said, say no. It's the responsible, smart thing to do to protect this position that you've got. You don't know what'll happen. They may get mad or whatever. And I walked into Ray and I go, Tom Griswold called and he wants to meet me. He wants to talk about some digital stuff. Maybe a good client for us. I don't know. Okay, see ya. And I left. I went to talk to Tom, and 6 months later, I was working for him. You know, but there was everything in my body that just said, don't leave work. Just stay here. It's safer. You know, or like just flying to LA. It's like, I don't want to ask for work for the time off to go do this. Like, I have a full-time job that's really good. I really like it. I don't want to take 3 days off of work because, you know, it's for a personal project and it's like kind of a competition. Like, I shouldn't even ask. So I'd waited for like 2 weeks to even ask work for the time to go to LA. Wow. So I finally work up the nerve to ask my boss, and he goes, oh, well, if you can meet with the sales team there, I'll pay for your hotel and your trip. So the thing I was nervous about, he was more than happy to pay for because business wise, it helped the company. It he was more than happy to do it for me. I mean, it was really meaningful to me. But if I had just said, "Nah, Miss Pat, I can't take the 3 days off. I appreciate the offer. It's just safer if I stay here and not do it." I never would have had the cool experience. I would have never I just think that that fear stops you from doing things when you're a scared rabbit.
The other thing is you probably also help make Miss Pat comfortable.
Yeah.
Granted, she's a professional. She's done all kinds of different things, but you've made her comfortable. She, it made her feel more at home.
Right.
Yeah, it's just like you said, a lot of people go in there and are scared. I'm sure she was probably nervous and concerned about the experience, and having you there probably helped a lot.
Maybe. She said she was not nervous. I asked her, so are you nervous doing something like this? But she said no. But I don't know. I think here's the thing that I've learned about people like her who are uber talented. I'm just insecure, but I'm not uber talented. Miss Pat is a once in a generation comedian. She's that talented, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. She never knows if she's good or not. She knows she's good, but she doesn't really know. She's like, how'd that go? Do you think the interview went well with Rogan? I go, Miss Pat, that was one of the best episodes of Joe Rogan ever. You have no idea how big this was going to be. You're funny, you're vulnerable, you learn things listening to you. It's going to be huge. I don't know. I just didn't, it's always amazing to see people who are unbelievably freakishly talented. Everybody always has that little seed of doubt.
I hear the story all the time, right? People like I'm blanking on another name, but the guy who did the insults for years and years, Frank Sinatra's friend.
Oh, Don Rickles.
Don Rickles. He never thought he was funny.
Yeah.
People like that. Robin Williams never thought much of himself either. I mean, Sam Kinison ended up just having a horrible experience just because he never thought he was funny. I mean, there's so much insecurity in those people who are so talented. Mm-hmm. It's kind of weird dichotomy to watch.
Yeah. So it's called the imposter syndrome. Look it up. There's a great video on YouTube about it, and it's very common, especially if you're doing creative work.
Yeah.
It's very easy. I'm in a place right now where I'm kind of protecting myself a little too much. And the show's not as vulnerable. This show's not as vulnerable. The show's not as funny as a result. And it's because I'm just trying to hang on a little bit, and I'm uncomfortable with a couple things, and there's a couple things that are really great that I can't talk about. I almost mentioned it, but I probably shouldn't.
Well, I do the same thing on my job.
I'm dating somebody, and I really can't be public about it, and it's been the best thing ever, and it's just I can't really talk about it yet, but I want to. It's just so it's sort of once one part shuts down a little bit, you just shut everything else down. You can't do it because people start going, it's not the same show. It's I'm not learning that human aspect that I used to get as much. It's but I don't know how to kick myself out of it. So it's just interesting to kind of watch people who are just at this level. I'm very, very. I just felt the night before Rogan, and I'll end it with this. I felt so fortunate. Tom Griswold's in the Radio Hall of Fame, the hardest working man I've ever seen in my life. Genius drips off the guy, and this is not. He will never hear this, so I'm not sucking up to him. I just am incredibly fortunate to work for that show and to get to see the behind the scenes of how something is structured and the way that it's structured and how the business works, and it introduced me to people like Frank Caliendo or Miss Pat that have helped me in my career, or bosses like John who have helped me with my career. And doing this, Wall has taught me so much. It's the bulk of my social circle. It is my test ground on a lot of skills. It is just this gives me purpose, and I really enjoy doing it. And I am so thankful that people tune in and listen to this and engage in it and are fans of it and donate their money to it. I just couldn't I thought about what I wanted to do when I was a teenager, and I'm doing it. How many people ever get to say you get to live out your childhood dreams, doing exactly what you wanted to do? Like, and I don't know how I got here. I couldn't tell you how to get to this position other than just like take every opportunity to work hard and just don't fuck up. But
always be open to opportunities as they present themselves instead of being, if you're focused on one thing too much, you'll ignore all the other things that could take you that you may not see right away, but could take you in the direction that throws you into where you really need to be going.
Yeah.
And being able to be open to that is important. And
strive for perfection, but don't get so hung up on perfection that you never try.
Right.
Yeah.
Do things that scare you. But I'm just so blessed and fortunate. Like, I couldn't afford tuition to get this kind of schooling that I've gotten from Bob and Tom, from Miss Pat, from We Are Libertarians, from Robert, who I'm with Leaders and Legends. Like, I'm just in a place right now where I'm learning so much career-wise, and I'm just like so grateful for the opportunity, and I really am grateful for this audience because this is my first love. It will always be my first love. It's not the thing that pays the bills right now. So we're in kind of a period right now where it's I've had to neglect it, and I'm sorry for that. And I'm kind of going, what do I love the most? And it's this, and I need to make sure that I pay attention to it. But I'm just very fortunate, and I thank you all for listening to We Are Libertarians, for supporting it, for being a part of the community, for having fun in the community. You know, I don't get to talk to many of you. I'd love to. I'm going to try and do a better job. Maybe surprise phone call people every once in a while, like just to get to know the people that are patrons and thank them. But I just am very thankful for what you guys have done. Is there anything you guys wanted to say before we go?
Just thanks to the patrons. You keep us going, and you basically convince us that we're doing the right thing. And
I still doubt it. I will still overthink it, but every once in a while I'm blowing a note to Harry. I'm like, "Am I doing the right thing? Is this true? Is this criticism valid?" Like, and it's Harry's job to tell me the truth.
Yeah. I usually sit there and respond back. Yeah, they're kind of half right, half not right, but or they don't know the whole truth. And if they add this little data, then they're completely wrong. But from what they see, this is what they.
Isn't that amazing? We often criticize people from our vantage point. Mm-hmm. But if we actually had all the information that person had, we might make the exact same choice. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that happens all the time. I think it happens. Yeah. I think if you were president, you probably wouldn't make different choices than Donald Trump, Barack Obama, or George Bush.
It's true empathy, being able to put yourself in someone else's position.
I'd make myself king for life, so I don't know.
Good.
But he's trying.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. I'm very tired now. So I hope you enjoyed this. I talked a lot about me. I'm sorry. I just had a lot of stuff to get off my chest. This is a nice little therapy session for me.
Enough about me. What do you think about me?
Yes, right. All right, on that we'll end. Thank you all for being a patron.